Guten Morgen. I am up this morning for my phone consult with Synthesis about exploring psilocybin, and I'm going to share that call with you. Hi friends, for those that are new here, I'm Patrick. I am exploring plant-based wellness in this upcoming year, and I'm sharing how that intersects with my personal growth, family, and community around me in various types of ways. And I have a hot cup of tea just because my phone call didn't happen today with Synthesis. I was a little worried about the time differences and thinking that it didn't upload correctly in my Google Calendar. And I think with all the different various versions of whether their system reflected their time or my time is supposed to be their time, at this point, all of those situations are up, and I put in an email to request a reschedule. And so if you have that experience with scheduling and they are a no-show to your appointment, just know that stick with it and try again, put in another request and schedule it again. They do seem quite busy, so it's quite possible that I think they may have overlapped with maybe the meeting before mine, because as of right now, my meeting has been pushed out for 2 weeks, if I understand their calendar correctly. So it's a little deflating to have to wait 2 weeks, but you know, if you are in pursuit to chase down and experience something that might change your overall betterment and open up new pathways towards, you know, inner peace and healing, it's definitely worth it to stick and see the process through. Don't let a little obstacle deter you. And so I was boiling apparently very hot water. I don't know if this is showing up, or maybe it's putting a Drag Race Season 1 filter over this, but I've been sipping tea off and on this morning, and I've just been reflecting on a couple of conversations I've had lately, and one of which is with my individual therapist, who's like a big proponent of using psychedelics in relation with mental health and wellness development. His background is more in the realm of LSD, which makes me nervous for some reason, and I don't know particularly why. I think it's that ingrained training that you're given as a kid that this is inherently bad. But he's been rather supportive in exploring the realm of psychedelics and microdosing. And I recently had a conversation with my PCP, who has also shared her own personal stories with her struggles with mental health, as well as working in mental health care settings, where that's really the foothold of what her experience is before she went to more of a general practice. And she's also really supportive of it. In fact, she's having a meeting with the chief medical officer for the clinic that I go to about exploring the loopholes in the oversight of being able to, if I were to establish care elsewhere where this is legal, would I be able to continue to fill a psilocybin prescription for microdosing, as an example, where she would monitor care and I might have the prescription mailed to me, or it would fall under a classification loophole that it could be filled here by a pharmacy. And with both of these health practitioners around in my circle, it tells me a couple of things. It tells me, one, I definitely live in Vermont where these things aren't progressive ideas, and two, it's telling me that the overall community as a whole sort of treats it as normal mainstream medicine, and it's something that oddly politics hasn't caught up to the science, which I think we can all agree science seems to move more concrete and faster and more sustainably, I don't know, proven, accurate, dependable than in relation to our political pulleys and levers that seem to shift with the tide, and often it shifts a generation or two behind where we're actually at as a society, which is what it is. But I've also been sitting here thinking today, you know, I remember being 10, 15, 20 years ago thinking that cannabis was this new revolutionary thing that can be used for a broad array of things in metabolic and mental health. And that's led me to sort of wonder, is psilocybin sort of on track to be the same thing? And I saw this chart the other day, and it sort of like ranks where everything's at. And it's interesting to me about how far away these things are, but we all sort of label them together for some reason. And I know that we're all familiar with the euphoric effects of psilocybin and what this chemical compound does from the fungus that it is harvested from, but it's also shown how it fights it and is beneficial specific to mental health more than any type of metabolic or physical based health, and that it's linked to the 5-HT serotonin receptor and neurogenesis that helps to actually restructure how the brain is working, which maybe I'll have to do a more informative based with research to share with you about why that is specifically important. But I think just broadly for where I'm think tanking at my process today and comparing it to, cannabis is sort of like old news. It's, there's not many states that are still randomly demonizing it for something. But psilocybin feels exciting to me in that it's naturally occurring, and that feels safer to me. I know that there is science to back that particular feeling, and as more and more people get access to it and provide data and supported research to these particular speculations and theories and hypotheses, it creates more of a demand for funding it and having more concrete and then peer-reviewed studies that just opens up more and more of a floodgate of not only this avenue of mental health treatment, but it allows it to become more mainstream in application to prescribing healthcare officials. Again, still swirling around this comparison to cannabis and psilocybin, and I find it sort of, again, interesting. I think that if I had money to put into a particular area of wellness and treatment resources for something, I would put it in psilocybin based companies or the medical usage of these growing centers for microdosing. I think that there's going to be a big boom and a big growth for this. So in that aspect of, is psilocybin the new cannabis? It's not really the new cannabis and what cannabis does, but I would say that it's probably the new big thing that's going to show a beneficial application to the demands of the unaddressed mental health epidemic that our communities are realistically facing. And especially after a year of chronic stress and anxiety and depression and isolation and physical distancing and just trauma from the inability to effectively feel like you can do your job in the healthcare setting, and just broken healthcare systems and structures and supply and demand chains. I think that we are going to see that we need to make a change outside of the existing and complacent pharmaceutical structure of what drugs are available. Because even with the drugs that we have now on the market for mental health care that come from a pharmaceutical point of view, there's nothing that really concretely proves that these things alleviate these symptoms specifically. It's more of managing and mitigating symptoms that just correlates with eradication or easement of those symptoms, if that makes any sense. So even though there's the trust and the backing of these pharmaceutical drugs, there's actually no real research that says, this drug solves this aspect of mental health. And I don't think that messaging is really clear in a lot of ways. And I think that if people knew that, they would also find that there is an importance to expand and diversify what we have available to us. Because as we all know, we are all unique and we are all special, and we have our own internal systems with different genetic components that some things just work better than others. And the more that we have people feeling like they can access something proven that works for them in their lifestyle, as well as what just metabolically and physically responds to their genetic components, the better off we'll be. So I did not have my intake appointment with Synthesis this morning, but I do feel like it allowed me some time to really think about and reassess my dedication to this process and exploring this particular area of wellness, because after a long time, it's interesting to maybe find these off the beaten path aspects to explore and then share with you. So if anyone has anything they'd like to add, or if you've had any experiences with Synthesis in the past, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, so remember to grow from where you are, and I will share more with you soon. Tschüss!